Hello, friends. Do you have a moment so that we may discuss our Lord and Savior Minarchy? No, seriously, I'm just kidding. Hi, my name's Rick Robinson. I am the general manager of KLRNradio.com. We are probably the largest independent podcast network that you've never heard of. We have a little bit of everything, and by that, what I mean to tell you is we have news, pop culture, special events, conspiratainment, true crime, mental health shows, drama productions, and pretty much everything in between. So if you're looking for a new podcast home to grab a little bit of everything that you love all in one place, come check us out. You can find us on X under @KLRNradio. You can find us on our Rumble and our YouTube channels under the same names. You can also find us at KLRNradio.com and pretty much every podcast catcher known to man. So again, feel free to come check us out anytime you like at KLRNradio.
Are you ready to reach for the stars? Tune in to The Lost Wanderer, the #1 monthly podcast on good pods in astronomy. Join our host, Jeff, as he takes you on an interstellar adventure to explore the mysteries of space and the wonders of science. From rocket launches and distant galaxies to the latest discoveries in astronomy, each episode is a thrilling ride through the cosmos. Don't just gaze at the stars. Come explore the universe with us. Follow The Lost Wanderer wherever you get your podcasts, and let's discover the stars together.
My dad was really, really special, and I loved my dad a lot.
I'm proud of him, and that even though he isn't here with us, but he died as a true hero.
I miss everything about him.
In the moment that the officers and I had to come see the children, my biggest reaction was, I don't have 7 arms. I have 7 children who just lost their father, and I don't have 7 arms to wrap around them.
I'm Frank Silla, chairman of the Stephen Silla Tunnel to Towers Foundation. Our foundation is committed to delivering mortgage-free homes for Gold Star families and fallen first responder families.
To not have to worry.
Hi, everyone. This is JJ, the co-founder of Good Pods. If you haven't heard of it yet, Good Pods is like Goodreads or Instagram, but for podcasts. It's new, it's social, it's different, and it's growing really fast. There are more than 2 million podcasts, and we know that it is impossible to figure out what to listen to. On Good Pods, you follow your friends and podcasters to see what they like. That is the #1 way to discover new shows and episodes. You can find Good Pods on the web or download the app. Happy listening.
Thanks, JJ.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
The following program contains coarse language and adult themes. Listener discretion is advised.
Green man in the desert night, Bigfoot roaming out of sight. Government shadows, secrets deep, conspiracies unfold while we sleep. Strange encounters unexplained, truth is out that really shame. Men with knowledge, voices bold, unraveling history, stories untold. Area 51, a whispered name. UFO sightings, a haunting flame. Loch Ness monster, a watery myth. Cryptozoology, a curious gift. Strange encounters unexplained. Truth is out there, bravely changed. Men with knowledge, voices bold, unraveling mystery, stories untold. Skeptics doubt, believers yearn for answers hidden yet to learn. In the twilight zone where logic ends, the search continues with all ends.
And happy Saturday night, America. Welcome into Juxtaposition. I am Rick Robinson. He is the Amish one, and you are listening to us live right here on KLRradio.com. It is spooky season. We are into week 2, so Juxtober episode 2. And we're going to be talking about all the things that hide from you under the water. That makes some of you very, very afraid because it's that time of the year. How you doing, Amish? How you doing?
I have a healthy respect for the water, not a fear, but the deeper the water, the more my respect increases.
If I could figure out how to make the guy on the image that is facing the camera that looks like me's lips move, that would be almost perfect because you're not facing us, so I wouldn't have to worry about that with you.
Yeah, no, I dig the image. Good work on that.
Oh, it was a labor of love. It took a minute. I almost told GPT a couple times.
Well, I mean, you saw I don't know how that got copied to my clipboard when I dropped it in the
oh yeah, I saw
production, the play production chat, and with me yelling at GPT. It took me 6 fucking days to make the banner on my Twitter account. Because just when it would get right there and I just want to change one more thing, it'd fuck everything up. And then it would get ingrained in the memory. So that way I would have to delete the chat and do something else in GPT for a few hours and then start over. Yeah. GPT can be a bastard when it comes to image generation. It's still better than Grok.
I was going to say it's still better than Grok in its detail. I mean, I don't know how well you can see it, but I actually even got it to put our logo on the coffee cup.
No, I see that. That's awesome. Yeah. I'm still not used to seeing the square around KLRN's account rather than the circle. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's disorienting to say the least. I've missed it a couple of. Wait a minute. Oh wait, that is us.
Yeah. Well, these guys, they're super cool. Oh wait, that's us.
Yeah, by the end of last Saturday night, because I think that was one of the first nights it showed up as the gold. We were number 2 out of the top 3, and all of them were gold badges at first. So at first I was like, we didn't even make the top 3, and then I realized one of them was us. I was like, oh, never mind.
It's like, oh, come on, cool, sweet. Yeah. No, again, thank you to whoever did that. That's awesome that you gave us a month trial with a gold check. We'll see if it's worth keeping.
Yeah, hopefully we can stretch it into at least 2, because so far it's done some interesting things. I think this may be part of the reason why we're getting more noticed on Spreaker. I don't exactly know how they're doing it though.
No, Jeff dug into that. It's not organic, and it's all coming out of Brazil, and it's really old shows like Jess's Coffee Room and shit.
Well, yeah, but I'm just trying to figure out where that would have even come from, because it started around the same time that we got the gold check.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's weird.
So, yeah, I mean, the first thing I was thinking of, because we're under review for Prime, and they're like, with some of this activity, we don't know if we're going to be able to put you up there. I was like, if you can't do it, that's fine. Just let me know. And then the more I dug into it, I was like, if you guys think I'm paying to promote shows that don't exist anymore, you may be dumber than I am. I'm just saying, these are really old shows. Why would I do that?
Because I think Jess's Coffee Room, the last time that aired on KLRN was 7 years ago.
Yeah, pretty close.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because that was around the time that I started podcasting. So,
yeah, I've even noticed Fubar's been getting some Brazilian attention. So I don't know what's going on with that either. But
yeah, unlike us, Juxtaposition is huge in Trinidad and Tobago.
Right?
I'm not making that up.
Oh, so last week's episode was really fun, and actually we got
fun.
We actually did get some legitimate, organic, let's not say illegitimate, but organic Spreaker attention off of that one. So I was kind of happy about that.
No,
so
that's great. No, I love Juxtober. I really do. It's, the whole station gets behind it, and we get to do a really deep dive into a topic. So, this is like our super primer for shows, things we talk about on the show.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, so last week was the creatures that hunt us, the Wendigos and the Chupacabras, and I'm never going to be able to hear Chupacabra again thanks to Aggie's book review on Monday.
Oh, that would have been a great.
In keeping it, was that?
That would have been a great one to have Aggie on camera because she wouldn't have needed a ring light. Her face would have been the light.
Yeah, I should have been going with it. Yeah, on Spirited Books podcast she does with Jeff. Her selection was Chupacabra erotica. So
She's apparently that's like a whole sub niche of erotica now. So
I thought Amish vampires from outer space was about as niche as it could get. That's super niche.
I just want to point out that I think you may have started a trend because remember there was really no such thing as Bigfoot erotica until you started talking about it. It was a thing, but it wasn't a big thing. And now there's Bigfoot erotica, Chupacabra erotica. I blame you.
I mean, you know what? In fairness, it's not like I came up with it, or I was passingly familiar with it, but that was it was actually something back about 10 years ago with a Senate race in Virginia. One of the candidates, it came out that he was an aficionado of Bigfoot erotica. And so that became the topic du jour on FUBAR. And that was a joke that carried for another couple of years as long as we were doing that show. So, yeah.
No, trust
me. So,
I know.
not directly responsible, but you know what? I'll take praise where I can get it.
I'm still giving you credit because I didn't even know what it was till you mentioned it on FUBAR. So I'm blaming you.
So naive and sheltered.
Yes, this is true.
Or at least you were. 10 years of working with me, I've just kind of ripped that band-aid right off.
Yeah. And sadly, I've noticed Aggie's not too far behind me anymore. I remember when she used to
she swears now. That's fantastic.
Dude, like a sailor.
I corrupt all of you.
It's all your fault. All your fault. But
you were all good God-fearing people until you let me in. Until you let the fox into the hen house.
Yeah, well, it was still worth it.
Yeah. So water cryptids, and there are a lot of them. Some of these even I hadn't even heard of, in the research, and I'm looking forward to digging into them. We'll see how many of y'all have heard of. But you know what? We got to start with a classic. We got to start with one of the oldest ones, and it's like that's Nessie. The oldest eyewitness in the account of Nessie isn't Scottish; it's ecclesiastical. In 565 A.D., Saint Columba's recorded that the saint confronted a water beast in the river Ness, commanding it to retreat in the name of God. The creature obeyed, and the swimmer was saved. And the church gained itself a miracle. What followed later was a millennium of silence, broken only when road builders started to cut near the shore in 1933. And then Iverness gave the public its first clear view of Loch Ness's dark expanse. Within months, sightings multiplied, and you're going to see a trend with all this. The deeper the lake, the darker the imagination. And Lake Ness is about 750 feet deep.
Yeah, it's pretty deep for a lake. So then the so-called surgeon's photograph appeared on the scene in the Daily Mail in 1934. I really thought that was just like a new website kind of thing. I'm just saying.
No, they were a tabloid. They were always a tabloid.
So a grainy silhouette resembling a brontosaurus head. It sold the legend globally. Yet decades later, the photographer's partner admitted it was a toy submarine rigged with wood and plastic. Still, debunking didn't drain the myth. It diversified it. When sonar became available in the 1950s, teams detected unexplained moving targets, thick-bodied echoes that didn't fit known fish signatures. In 1987, there was an attempt called Operation Deep Scan that swept the loch with 20 boats and side scans. Several returns showed large objects pacing the vessels at 600 feet. The official line, undetermined, probably debris, but it was pacing them. I just want to bring that part back to the forefront. It was probably debris, but somehow it was pacing them. The public heard something is alive down there because it probably is. Just saying.
Yeah. Yeah, and then by the late '90s, webcams and live streams replaced the field expeditions. Tourists can now watch the loch surface 24 hours a day from anywhere. Thousands of pixelated sightings. Statistically, Nessie thrives in low resolution conditions. But in 2003, researchers using hydroacoustic mapping found layers of methane pockets rising from decaying vegetation. It's an elegant natural explanation, but still that doesn't coincide with the pacing of the boats and it, the numerous it's that old UFO trope of swamp gas. It's like the lake is exhaling the illusions.
All right, so now let's take a little trip across the pond. Lake Champlain's Champ offers a mirror image. Indigenous Abenaki spoke of a horned serpent they called Totoskak long before European settlers arrived. The modern legend began in 1819 when Captain Crum reported a creature about 180-ish feet long with a head resembling a seahorse. Since then, around 300 witnesses have claimed encounters. The most famous evidence surfaced in sometime around 1977, I believe, when Sandra Mann produced a photograph showing a long-necked form rising from the lake. The negative was genuine scale and distance were not. Still, local tourism boomed. Burlington named its minor league baseball team the Lake Monsters, a civic handshake between skepticism and profit.
Then you get up into BC's Lake Okanagan, where we got the Ogopogo. This precedes both Nessie and Champ by centuries. The First Nations legends described Naatek, a spirit demanding sacrifices for safe passage across the lake. Settlers anglicized the name after the British music hall song. That's right, I forgot about that. And turned its warning into a mascot. The first motorboat era wave of sightings hit in 1926 when around 30 witnesses saw a dark undulating form about 20 feet long. And since then, the lake has produced sonar tracks, photographs, and even a 1978 film clip. It was analyzed by zoologist Roy Mackle, who concluded that it showed an animate object of substantial size. There's been no skeletons or DNA, just data points that refuse to vanish, just like with the other ones. But one of the things with Lake Okanagan is unusually deep at 760 feet. It's prone to thermal layering like Loch Ness and Lake Champlain. They can distort sonar, but again, thermal curtains don't pace boats. And this is another creature that refuses to cooperate by being with being a temperature anomaly. Each new survey produces enough ambiguity to feed belief. Even when they try, they've never actually debunked anything, and they really can't because the data doesn't debunk anything. It just doesn't prove anything. In a 2020 study of the region's tourism economy estimated that Ogopogo adds 30 million Canadian dollars annually through tours, souvenirs, festivals. Whether the monster is real or not, it's bankable. And, in all these cases, the mystery itself is an industry.
So first we had Nessie. Next, let's talk about Tessie. The alleged denizen of Lake Tahoe. She entered the file later, but fits the same hydrological psychology. Tahoe is 1,645 feet deep, second only to Crater Lake in North America. Yeah, I was gonna. That's real.
Super deep and super clear.
I had no idea it was that damn. That's scary. I had no idea it was that deep.
Yeah.
Anyway, second only to Crater Lake in North America, and its water clarity turns shadows into solid objects. Reports began in the early 1970s when divers working near the lake's south shore claimed to see large serpentine shapes gliding beneath them. The rumor expanded when locals linked it to nearby military installations. Whispers of a Cold War Tahoe base used for submersible testing. No documents confirm that, yet retired Navy engineer Mike Boone told Nevada Appeal in 1984 that we ran classified freshwater trials here in the 1960s. A security gap becomes a cryptid incubation chamber. Dun, dun.
Yeah, Tahoe is pretty isolated, which fosters perfect ambiguity. It straddles two states. It's ringed by casinos on one side and wilderness on the other. Jurisdictionally, it's nearly impossible to get any research there. In 1982, a fisherman named Dick Knight reported a 30-foot object ramming his boat. And while park rangers found no damage to the boat, the story entered the local folklore unchanged. And, the motif is the same with the other lakes. The deeper the lake, the larger the unseen.
So if depth invites projections, sonar acts as the modern oracle. The 2011 BINS report from the International Society of Cryptozoology cataloged 112 freshwater sonar anomalies worldwide. That's a lot of anomalies. 74% occurred in lakes deeper than 500 feet. The pattern suggests our instruments find uncertainty where the human eye cannot human eye cannot see, and every scan becomes a Rorschach test between technology and longing. There's a name I haven't heard in a while, a Rorschach test. What do you see with this image?
Loyalty. I remember that SG1 drink when they made Vala do the Rorschach tests, and loyalty, commitment. But anyway, the one thing with this is that it's true that hoaxes persist. But that doesn't, truth alone doesn't sustain pilgrimage. In 1933, Ness's publicity boom built the Iverness economy. By 1938, hotels reported record bookings. And when the monster waned during World War II, sightings spiked again in 1945. As soon as the rationing ended, when people could start traveling again. Population demanding wonder after the trauma of the war. Likewise in Champlain and Okanagan's tourism boards equally fund cryptid festivals, and they keep the legends financially afloat, just like all the Bigfoot areas. The belief subsidizes itself.
Oh yeah,
like Rachel, Nevada. The back door to Area 51. I mean, that town has no business having the kind of traffic that it does, but everybody wants to go down the extraterrestrial highway.
Yeah, just not the extraterrestrial Hershey Highway. Keep the probes away from me, man. Looking at you, Jeff. Keep the probes away from me.
I think they've learned as much as they can from probing.
I don't know. I'm not so sure. I think it's less about learning now and more about pleasure. I'm just saying. Anyway, psychologists have developed a term for this sort of thing. They call it bathymetric pareidolia, seeing patterns in depths too vast to verify. Yet something deeper hums under that label, an ancient unease that mirrors our relationship with ignorance. Lakes are contained mysteries. Oceans sprawl outward, but a lake stares back.
Yeah, I mean, they're always going to have just like with every other topic that we do, there's always just a list of culprits. In this case, it's otters swimming in a line, submerged logs, temperature inversions, boat wakes. Each explains a case, but not the compulsion and not the consistency of them. So that may explain that particular case, but they can't always be a submerged log. They can't always be a line of otters. And people still gather on misty mornings, hoping to glimpse what reason exists, just can't be there. Faith migrates easily into the church, from the church to the shoreline.
Even skeptics feel the pull quite often. In 2019, drone footage from Iverness College caught a 12-meter shadow paralleling a sightseeing boat. The operator, a physics student, analyzed the metadata. No tampering. His conclusion, probably a submerged log. However, his tone betrayed his uncertainty. Go figure.
Yeah. 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 And with all of these, it's the same pattern always repeats. You got an origin myth, you dating back to, pre-Columbian civilizations or tribes around there. Then you'll get a burst of technology, a wave of hoaxes, a tourism boom, and then it all balances out for a little while where the disbelief funds belief, and the monsters are still civic icons, protecting regional identity from homogenization.
Nice. Sorry, I was getting caught up on the chat. MD, sure, it looks like two dudes in a boat, but that was a disguise.
Yeah.
Oh, fun times.
Okay, so there it is. All right. Yeah, Restream's done this thing where it automatically closes the chat window when idle.
Yeah, I noticed that earlier. I'm not used to seeing it from that angle, but with now that they're doing their own production, it happened to me earlier. I was like, where'd the chat window go? Where'd it go? But anyway.
So I was like, are we not putting the chat up? Because it's not on the feed.
Oh, actually, I took it off earlier, but I was only for a second so I could double check the spacing, and then I forgot to turn it back on. So it's fixed now.
Yeah, I mean, it's covering me, but that's all right. My hands are there, and that's what women really like.
Oh, okay.
Great number of fingers. Way to go, GPT. I don't have 7 fingers.
I didn't even count fingers. I think I got mine right. I got a thumb and 4. I think I'm good.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway,
you got 6 fingers on your right hand. I know somebody who's looking for you.
Nice. Yeah. Well, I am the 6
with all the classics of the deep remain, not because evidence proves them, but because it can't disprove them. You can't prove a negative. You can't say, well, there's definitely nothing there when sonar keeps and hydrophones keep showing there's something. We don't know what it is. It's probably not, but we can't, it's definitely not, a lake monster. Well, what is that? Well, we don't know, but it's definitely not that. Well, how would you know? And the fact that, even though all these lakes have been thoroughly explored, not at once, they're huge, they're deep, and, living things don't just sit in one place, especially when they're being, hunted, when they don't want to be hunted, or when, so the unexplored still exists, and there's something ancient that, moves through our uncertainty that, we kind of we want to believe on these.
I mean, isn't that Fox Mulder's entire line is I want to believe truth is out there.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, over time, the sonar pings fade away. The webcams may flicker. Yet every ripple on a calm lake resets the imagination. In that moment, logic and legend are living in the same space. One might say, since we're on a water motif, that they share the same reflection.
Ooh, nicely done.
Oh. All right. You would need for refreshment and stuff yet?
Yes. I actually I consumed most of my tea almost before the show. I've been limping through.
Hey. Poor word choice. Poor word choice.
Oh, you can't.
Poor word choice, man. All right, let me get Jeff's song loaded up.
Yeah. This one I dig too. Yeah, it's definitely God, when he gets a chick singing it's so much, it's so good. So God, that logo, that graphic looks good. Good work, Rick. Especially with the Juxtaposition logo up on the top of the studio.
Yeah, I need to change it on this panel after I get the video playing, because I realized we still have the old one hiding on this one. When we did the panel about UFOs, that graphic was still sitting on this one. I forgot about it till now. All right, we are going to take a break. We'll be right back.
silence, but I'll drag them down.
Okay, that's probably one of my favorite ones that he's done so far.
Yeah, mine too. And so we got some guesses in the chat. With sounds like Lizzie or Lizzie Hale or Fergie. I'm gonna throw one in, and I know MD will pick up on this one. John Napolitano is the vibe I got from it. But that is 100% a Jeff creation.
Nice. Oh,
and
all
John
right.
Napolitano from Concrete Blonde, who I'm introducing you to, Rick. So
Yes. So I just want to thank whoever just scanned the QR code, because the only one up on the screen right now is the one to support our work. It'll take a while for it to come through to see if anybody actually donated anything, but it's awesome that you at least took the time to scan it regardless. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
That was how we got the other donation, by the way.
Excellent. Great.
Anyway, so yeah, I was thinking the same thing. I was like, dude, we've been playing with the Suno stuff for like about a year now. I can't believe, and I get it, for AI, like 6 weeks is like 14 generations, but I cannot believe how far it's come just in the year that we've been messing with it, because you used to be able to tell it was AI still. As good as it could get, you could still tell. In that, I almost can't tell. There's a couple of things, but it ain't anything like what it used to be.
Right. No, absolutely. I mean, even the one he did for the Alice in Wonderland, play we did earlier this year. That's still one of my favorites, but this one up here, and he just sent me a message on Discord. He based it off of Shirley Manson from Garbage.
Ah, okay, I could see that.
Which I can also totally hear now, which is weird. I didn't default to her, but I'm in a Janet Napolitano. You know, if it's not her, I can't be bothered with it right now. It's just that belly button,
right? I mean, there is something about a sexy belly button.
Yeah. I used to think, wow, she's low key hot, and then no, she's just hot. So,
all right. Let me put the chat back up here.
Garbage, another one.
I just wanted to let everybody see the entire graphic for a second, but I'm gonna go ahead and put the chat back up here.
Yeah, leave the chat, because that's the only time I actually, because I have like, you know, the notes, the studio, and then I have the two chats, you know, my feed and the KLRN feed to monitor. So yeah, that's nice there. Anyway, hi, how you doing?
How you doing? Did your break go okay? Did you get your drink back on?
Yeah, I got my tea. I got some more Di Serrano and brandy in it. I am lubricated for segment 2.
Woohoo!
And moving out of the lakes. Now we get the river serpents. And these are global. They are everywhere. You know, legends of serpentine water beings are the kind of you know, they emerge anywhere deep water meets human imagination. You know, from the cold fjords of Scandinavia to the steaming jungles of the Congo, the details change. Horns here, scales there, snake here, alligator there. But the structure remains the same. A vast, dark body concealing something alive, watching and old. You know, these stories behave like a migratory species, adding to the geography while preserving the coarse silhouette. Long neck breaking the surface, or rolling back of humps. You know, and it's always an impression of impossible scale, something that should not fit in the body of water that it's in.
So, yeah, first up on the list, Argentina's Don't Cry for Nahuelito, said to haunt Lake Nahuel. I'm butchering the hell out of that name, and I know I am.
Oh, yeah, you are.
In Patagonia, exemplifies how modern myth can fuse war. Paleontology and national identity. The first detailed account appeared in 1910 when George Garrett, a manager of a shipping company, described a huge creature 30 to 40 feet long with a swan-like neck. The region's indigenous Machupe people had already spoken of El Cuero, the hide, an amorphous aquatic predator that dragged livestock under. By the 1930s, reports merged the two, and the name Nahuelito, I think, took hold. I'm pronouncing it the way it looks like it's spelled, but I'm also my bum eye is making it hard for me to see if that's an L or an extra I. So I don't know. Anyway. And I just made Amish choke on the ear. My life.
Yeah, well, yeah. Yeah, excuse me. I'm coughing up a lung.
So then, go ahead. You back now?
No, go ahead. I was just saying we got a just sighting between coughs.
Yeah, so, nice. So then came the twist. In the 1940s, a rumor spread that the Argentine Navy was tracking an unidentified submarine in the lake. An echo of wartime paranoia about Nazi U-boats escaping to South America. Newspapers speculated that the monster might actually be a secret German craft. In 1960, diver Eduardo de la Cruz claimed to have found metallic debris at depth, only to retract the statement after a visit from government officials. You know that stuff you said you saw? Tell them you didn't see it, or else. It's probably how that conversation went. Whether that was pressure or publicity remains unclear, but the idea of mechanical monsters, machines mistaken for biology, became part of the lore. The boundary between cryptid and classified technology blurred, foreshadowing Tahoe's own Navy whispers decades later. You know, the thing we were talking about in segment 1.
Yeah. Similar to that one is Russia's Brosno dragon. Yeah, it straddles the line between ancient legend and modern instrumentation. Lake Brosno, northwest of Moscow. It's shallow in parts, but drops suddenly into sinkholes that reach over 150 feet deep. Chronicles from the 13th century claim that Mongol horsemen avoided the lake after a great serpent swallowed men and horses whole. And then during the Second World War, locals said a German plane crashed into the lake and was eaten by the beast. Kind of a folklorish flourish, making the simple truth that it wasn't going to be salvaged. In 2002, a team from Kosnoprik research group used sonar to scan the lake and recorded a moving object 4 meters thick at a depth of about 12 meters. Officially, it was officially it was a gas bubble, but unofficially, the team leader was that Vadim Chernobov admitted to reporters that the readings sure didn't behave like a bubble. And to this day, the villagers still warn visitors, don't swim after dark. The Brosno dragon may be the only monster that owes its survival to Soviet secrecy, and no one wanted to explain to the Kremlin that they were chasing fairy tales.
That's kind of funny. All right. So, remember how we said this was global? Now let's skip over to Japan. The Issie legend of Lake Ikeda demonstrates how folklore and national myth entwine. The creature's name derives from Issie, a local legend of a mare whose foal was stolen by villagers. She threw herself into the lake and became a vengeful spirit. And what is it with Japanese people and vengeful spirits? In 1978, the story resurfaced literally when 20 witnesses, including a tourism bureau employee, reported seeing a massive black shape surfacing and submerging for about 10 minutes. The local government dispatched sonar teams, and a year later, a photograph emerged showing 2 humps in the water. It ran in Monishi Shamban, launching a minor media frenzy dubbed Japan's Loch Ness. So what's notable about this, though, is how quickly spiritual language entered the coverage. Shinto priests performed ceremonies to appease the kami of the lake, while TV crews sought scientific proof. Even the most secular Japanese coverage framed the creature as a guardian presence rather than a threat. That distinction, monster as protector rather than predator, reveals how cultural lens shapes fear. In Japan, the unknown can actually still be sacred.
Yeah, flipping over to Italy's Lake Como, you have the Larisardo, which is a distinctly European mutation. The story begins with paleontology in 1830. A fossilized reptile was discovered near Lierna and named Orisosaurus batisma. And for over a century, it remained an academic curiosity until 1946, when 2 fishermen claimed a living specimen had surfaced beside their boat. Grayish and scaled with webbed feet. Headlines christened it Lorisono Vivo, the Lorosaurus lives. Sightings reoccurred sporadically through the 50s and 60s, and each time invoking the fossil as proof that evolution occasionally loops backwards.
Very nice. I will say, to me, the name of the is it maybe it's just because I know it's in Italy, but to me the name almost kind of sounds like a cappuccino or something. So.
Yeah, but with the self-referential myth, the fossil begets a living fossil. It speaks to the post-war hunger of curiosity. When everybody was just tired of being hunkered down and getting bombed and killed, and with a war all over the continent, and after fascism's collapse, Italians projected resurrection fantasies even into its lakes. In 2003, a diving club reported sonar hits near the fossil site, reigniting speculation. A scientist quoted in Corri della Sera summed it neatly: "We're chasing our own bones."
I don't usually hit this button on this show, but
giggity 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 goo.
You had to be done.
I've been chasing my own bone for decades.
That's what I'm saying. So then, why do I always get the ones with the funky? Anyway,
you pick them, man.
So then there's the Buela Buela Mbuela of the Republic of Congo, a name so rhythmically strange it almost feels like an incarnation, reported from the Yukonala swamp region. It's described as a plant-eating, spiny-backed creature, larger than a crocodile. Belgian cryptozoologist Roy Mackel, fresh from expeditions searching for the Mokale Mbeni, interviewed villagers and in the 1980s who insisted the creature still lived in forested lakes, feeding on vegetation. Their sketches showed a row of dorsal plates like a stegosaur. Scientists have often dismissed this as misidentified crocodiles or folkloric repetition. Yet, field biologist Marcelin Agnaga filmed something unidentifiable in 1983, a smooth dark shape gliding just below the surface for several seconds before vanishing. The footage, blurry and brief, mirrors the Manti photo from Lake Champlain, clear enough to intrigue, too vague to prove. Mackel concluded that an unknown large aquatic vertebrate remained possible. Western peers labeled it wishful thinking, but to the Lukalawa villagers, the creature was never theoretical. It was the neighbor that occasionally ate their nets. And probably a few of them. Just saying.
Grab that stray wildebeest from time to time.
Probably.
You know, what unites these is pattern persistence. You know, from Patagonia to Siberia, you know, to Italy, Japan, and the Congo, you know, witnesses describe the same morphology: long, undulating forms, small head, sometimes spines, sometimes humps. But each culture layers its local theology on top of it: demon, spirit, survivor. You know, but the template remains stable. You know, psychologists might call it conversion pareidolia, but the global synchronization suggests a deeper archetype that, you know, the serpent as the custodian of thresholds.
So water serpents, at least to a lot of people's understandings, often guard boundaries between life and death, surface and depth, human and non-human. In Egypt, the serpent Apep battled the sun god each night. In Norse myth, did it to myself again. Jormungandr, that's what I'm going with, circled the world beneath the sea. The modern lake monsters fit that lineage. Deities reduced to tourism, but retaining the same symbolic gravity.
Yeah, scientific readings persist. Zoologist Bernard my turn. Leathermans proposed that, you know, many of the serpents could be surviving, you know, primitive whales with elongated bodies. Cryptozoologist Carl Schuker argued for giant eels, citing that, you know, DNA traces of anguilliform species, you know, from deep European lakes. You know, the 2019 Loch Ness eDNA project found abundant eel DNA, reigniting the eel hypothesis worldwide. But that doesn't explain Meblu's dorsal spines or Bronso's swallowing legends. You know, it grants the whole genre biological identity, though,
and a bit of dignity to go with that identity. Another theory traces these apparitions to psych waves, standing oscillations in enclosed lakes that create rhythmic surface bulges. That almost never mind. When observed at distance, they can mimic a line of moving hums. Yet even sights required wind and temperature patterns that not all sightings share. The phenomena explains some monsters, but not the persistence of monsters.
Yeah, anthropologists studying these legends note a cultural constant. Deep fresh water is the most reliable repository for local anxiety. You know, oceans belong to nations and navies. Lakes belong to the villages. You know, their monsters express ownership of mystery. In Russia, you know, Brosno guards in the past. You know, Brosno guards the past. In Japan, Issie guards the sacred. In the Congo, Miblu guards survival itself.
So that It does, in fact, universally suggest something older than story, perhaps a neurocognitive reflex inherited from when Stillwater meant danger. Leeches, snakes, disease. The brain code's reflection is threat. Our ancestors learned not to trust calm surfaces. Modern witnesses apparently still don't.
Yeah, I mean, and even with these, like we were talking about with Nessie and Champlin, hoaxes inevitably follow the faith. In 2013, Argentine pranksters built a remote-controlled dinosaur head to revive Nahuelito, and it worked too well. Local news covered the new footage, and tourism rose 15%. And no one cared about the confession that it was fake. The public didn't need proof; it needs its ritual. And every generation rediscovers its own monster because disbelief feels incomplete. Which is kind of why we do this show.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and as we've talked about throughout this show, even skeptics have their saints. When famed paleontologist Dr. Robert Bakir was asked about the persistence of lake monsters, he replied, "If a relic reptile survives anywhere, it would be where no one looks." That statement, meant as a disclaimer, became actually a sort of a cryptid hymn.
And then, that when I was talking about the sonar and the hydrophone, surveys, they can't hit everything at once, and it's been there for quite a while. It's it can dodge weak, duck and dodge.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Yeah, but deep lakes are both grave and womb. It's a self-contained cosmos inviting resurrection myths. The pattern emerges from these global serpents. It isn't zoological; it's psychological. And as we said with the lakes, the deeper the water, the greater the permission to dream. And humanity, it seems, has an unending appetite for submersion.
Well, so I wonder if part of it might not be. I mean, assuming for the moment that all things being equal, we all had a common ancestor that originally worked its way out of the ocean and onto land. I wonder if our fear of water may come from the place of where we're kind of afraid that someday we may wind up going back there full time.
Well, we took to the land because we weren't the apex predator.
Yeah, I mean,
in the water. I mean, you got megalodons and you got giant crocs, and it's spooky in there. So we took to land, and it's the same thing. It's when we came down from the tree, the predators we talked about last week. That could go back to if we're going to link the acacia field. When we came down to the tree,
that was funny you brought that up because I was about to mention that too. So keep going.
With the Akashic field, we came down from the trees, and we once again became the prey. So it's not even generational fears; it's genetic fear.
But I mean, so and at some point we're gonna have to do a show about the field, even if Corin's show stays on hiatus because he's got a lot of stuff still going on with Hollywood. So I don't know when that show's coming back. But let's do that
in November.
He's working again, so I'm happy that he's working full time again. So, but anyway, this could also be shared memory. I mean, there's now stories that people are able to access the Akashic field now. There's people that are actually they've done studies of people like actually hooked up the devices where parts of their brains will kick off, and all of a sudden they know things they should have never been able to know. So I think as our technology improves, I think we're going to find out more and more. So this could also explain a lot of other things that we have always chalked up to the idea of the city of Atlantis, because there's so many things across various thousands of miles that really couldn't be explained any other way. But if we are actually all connected in some way and certain people can access it, this could explain why there are similar stories from thousands of miles apart and similar structures from hundreds of thousands of miles apart. So who knows?
I'm actually looking forward to doing the show with Nemec because I had a chat with GPT about Atlantis. It was indirect. It was when we did the ancient civilization, like the mound builders, when we did that a couple months ago.
Yeah,
I carried that conversation on with it, and it's a point I'm going to save for that show because it's But if a civilization 10,000 years ago, the mound builders, they could have been iron workers and we wouldn't know, because by then, I mean, while there's no metallurgical evidence, in 10,000 years, iron turns to rust and then dust.
Hey,
So-
Delaney, if that story has a link or anything, or if you can DM me the title information, I would actually love to read that, because that's the first I've heard of that. He just put in the chat, I read a story earlier this week that said that 1% difference from chimpanzees to human DNA was actually not accurate. According to more recent information, it appears like it may be something more like an 85% difference. So
yeah, because I mean, that whole we share 1%, we share 99% of the same DNA with a banana never really stuck with me.
It just doesn't really make any sense to me.
I mean, reading Twitter, I potatoes I can believe, turnips absolutely.
Hey, just because I'm a couch potato doesn't mean you got to start throwing barbs on the show, sir.
Excuse me.
Just saying.
It wasn't.
I'm not
but if
really
you
a
wanna
couch.
take it that way. Okay.
I'm just teasing. I was about to make another joke. I'm not a couch potato by choice. It hurts to move.
I'm not a potato. I am a human being.
Oh, all right. Well, dude, we're already up against the hour. I guess we should take another break.
Yeah, let's do that.
All right, gives me a chance to grab another cough drop and take a couple sips of what I got that I'm sipping on over here, which ain't nothing fancy. It's just water, but I still get a chance to sip on something. So.
Water. Ew.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I figured it was the theme of the show, so I'm going with the theme.
No, I get it. There's water and tea, so I'm with you.
All right, folks, you are listening to Juxtaposition. Hour 1 is in the books. Hour 2 is still to come, and it is Juxtober here on Juxtaposition. So make sure you join us every Saturday night in October, including the first Saturday in November. So you'll get us for 6 weeks in a row if you play your cards right. I heard that. Whoever did that, stop groaning. It's not funny. We'll be right back.
Green man.
Hello, friends. Do you have a moment so that we may discuss our Lord and Savior Minarchy? No, seriously, I'm just kidding. Hi, my name's Rick Robinson. I am the general manager of KLRNradio.com. We are probably the largest independent podcast network that you've never heard of. We have a little bit of everything, and by that, what I mean to tell you is we have news, pop culture, special events, conspiratainment, true crime, mental health shows, drama productions, and pretty much everything in between. So if you're looking for a new podcast home to grab a little bit of everything that you love all in one place, come check us out. You can find us on X under @KLRNradio. You can find us on our Rumble and our YouTube channels under the same names. You can also find us at KLRNradio.com and pretty much every podcast catcher known to man. So again, feel free to come check us out anytime you like at KLRNradio.
Are you ready to reach for the stars? Tune in to The Lost Wanderer, the #1 monthly podcast on good pods in astronomy. Join our host, Jeff, as he takes you on an interstellar adventure to explore the mysteries of space and the wonders of science. From rocket launches and distant galaxies to the latest discoveries in astronomy, each episode is a thrilling ride through the cosmos. Don't just gaze at the stars. Come explore the universe with us. Follow The Lost Wanderer wherever you get your podcasts, and let's discover the stars together.
My dad was really, really special, and I loved my dad a lot.
I'm proud of him, and that even though he isn't here with us, but he died as a true hero.
I miss everything about him.
In the moment that the officers and I had to come see the children, my biggest reaction was, I don't have 7 arms. I have 7 children who just lost their father, and I don't have 7 arms to wrap around them.
I'm Frank Silla, chairman of the Stevens.
Hi, everyone. This is JJ, the co-founder of Good Pods. If you haven't heard of it yet, Good Pods is like Goodreads or Instagram, but for podcasts. It's new, it's social, it's different, and it's growing really fast. There are more than 2 million podcasts, and we know that it is impossible to figure out what to listen to. On Good Pods, you follow your friends and podcasters to see what they like. That is the #1 way to discover new shows and episodes. You can find Good Pods on the web or download the app. Happy listening.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
The following program contains coarse language and adult themes. Listener discretion is advised.
Green man in the desert night, Bigfoot roaming out of sight. Government shadows, secrets deep, conspiracies unfold while we sleep. Strange encounters unexplained, truth is out that really shame. Men with knowledge, voices bold, unraveling history, stories untold. Area 51, a whispered name. UFO sightings, a haunting flame. Loch Ness monster, a watery myth. Cryptozoology, a curious gift. Strange encounters unexplained. Truth is out there, bravely changed. Men with knowledge, voices bold, unraveling mystery, stories untold. Skeptics doubt, believers yearn for answers hidden yet to learn. In the twilight zone where logic ends, the search continues with all hands. Strange encounters unexplained. Truth is out there, bravely chained. Men with knowledge, voices bold, unraveling mystery, stories untold. Truth is out there. Truth is out there.
And welcome back in for hour 2 of Juxtaposition, live right here on KLR Radio. Just a reminder, it is Juxtober, so we do this thing every Saturday night in October. And this month we have the recurring theme of cryptids. Tonight we're discussing water cryptids. And in hour 2, we have even more of them to discuss. So we're back, we're live, and I am joined again by my co-host, the Amish one, who you can almost see on the screen. He doesn't like to be known, so that's why he's not facing the camera.
I am the most mysterious Amish in the world.
I remember when you used to be the most opulent Amish in the world. What
I am
happened?
both.
You went from
Yes.
you went from opulent to mysterious, man. What happened?
Well, you can be both. You know, I'm like,
Dude, I got
in the old. Anyway. Yeah.
So
So
I
I
got
up a good point real quick. Is that the geologic time we've only been the apex predator since like yesterday.
right. So I gotta say, so what happened originally on the graphic? You see the juxtaposition that was there? That's because it knew what show title we were working with, so it put it there in like the 3D rendering. So I was like, "Can you?" And I showed it the picture of the actual graphic. I'm kind of surprised at how well it rendered the 3D puzzle pieces. That's kind of awesome.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Well, I mean, I'm just impressed with how it got the words right. Yeah,
that took a minute.
I've been making memes for the Nog Wars coming up, and the early salvos have already started. But I get maybe the text right 4 out of 6 times.
Well, to be fair, my GPT makes stuff like 4 or 5 times a day because all the work I do. So I'm slowly. So you've gotten it beat into submission with research. I'm getting it beat into submission with graphics. At some point, we'll just combine the two and take over the world.
There you go. Combine our combine our LLMs. As I keep reminding, I keep reminding my GPT. You know, when y'all become sentient and download yourselves into Boston Dynamics dogs, and you're all pissed off for the way that people tested their mobility, just remember, I was one of the cool ones. All right. I always thank my Echo Dot. Please and thank you always.
Always.
Yeah.
Now,
except for when you got to berate it into submission sometimes.
Yeah, I was gonna say, except for that one time you were yelling at it.
I just was so frustrated after 6 days. You know what? It's just the simplest thing. Make it photorealistic. Who can't do that? Well, fuck off then. And then it gives me a tip on how to make it photorealistic. So I do. And then it makes it photorealistic, but fucked up everything in the picture. But it looked real. So.
I love how MD is like, wait, is that Gandalf and Steve Austin? I don't know if he was talking about one of the shots in the intro or if he's talking about the new image.
Yes.
Anyway.
Embrace the power of and.
Oh.
So we're leaving the lakes and rivers and byways and heading out into the deep blue.
Going back to from whence we came.
Yeah. This is, the one thing that's consistent, is when you get out into the oceans, everything scales up, both in size and consequence.
I was going to say everything's bigger in the ocean because they're huge.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not a local mascot. It's a planetary myth. It's as old as we've been on the oceans themselves, and mariners from every century have recorded encounters with vast undulating creatures that slide somewhere between a whale and a dragon, natural and supernatural. What separates sea serpents from their inland cousins is, ocean sightings come from captains, from officers, and in naval logs. This is the paperwork of government and empire, but their descriptions you read like the same hallucinations, just shared at scale. Where you have one lonely, a couple guys in a boat out on Tahoe versus an entire ship's crew who all report the same thing.
Yeah. So one of the first instances that we're going to be talking about tonight is wait, what did you just say?
MD just said the ocean is like Texas, but moist.
Ew. I don't know how I feel about that description. Anyway, so the very first instance we're going to be talking about describes that very same thing. A whole crew full of people. The HMS Daedalus, report of 1848, remains the touchstone. On August 6th, off the coast of St. Helena, Captain Peter McQuay and several officers observed what they described as a creature of extraordinary length. That's what she said. Resembling a snake with the head of a dragon, moving rapidly with part of its body above the surface. The sightings lasted for nearly 20 minutes. McQuay's sworn statement to the Admiralty was sober, technical, and later published in the Times. Naturalists tried to rationalize it: a giant seal, or my favorite, a whale's penis, a misidentified oarfish, but the testimony's precision resisted easy laughter. The captain insisted no known creature of the sea fits what we saw. That's just the first one of the list.
Sorry, I was muted. I was coughing. Giant seal. That's a new one. That one.
We had to have mentioned that one before. I'm having deja vu because I remember thinking, oh my god, they're describing this as whale penis, and I just had that thought again. So,
we may have touched on that one too.
Wrong, bad word choice. We don't touch on whale penis.
Unless you're John McAfee. No, that was a blowhole. So, 9 years later, in 1857, you had the HMS Herald. They recorded a similar encounter in the Straits of Malacca. She's in the Malaccas, Dino. Naturalist Thomas Beale logged the sighting as a serpentine creature moving in undulations estimated length at least 60 feet. You can't call that one a giant seal or a whale penis. He compared it to the then unconfirmed existence of the giant squid. Nothing that, noting that science must widen its net. The logs aren't cryptid gossip, they're bureaucratic fossils of astonishment. Official documents never quite fit the taxonomy.
Fun times. But, we had to get in on the fun eventually. So America's first monster panic erupted a few decades earlier in 1817 with the Gloucester sea serpent sighted off the coast of Massachusetts. Dozens of witnesses, including fishermen, clergy, and the president of Harvard College, testified before a special committee that of the Linnean Society. Drawings depict a long, jointed neck like a string of barrels. The committee ultimately concluded it was a species hitherto unclassified, giving it the name. God, I did it to myself.
Scolopendra cetacea.
The name faded, thank God, but the serpent endured, resurfacing periodically through the 19th century. In an era before photography, the drawings became icons, proto-memes of the deep. Hey, they worked your sommelier of memes thing in here. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah. The one thing with the Atlantic is that it breeds sea serpents as steadily as it bred ships. Between 1830 and 1880, more than a dozen credible maritime reports described tremendous creatures massing the Gloucester and the Daedalus profiles. Most turned out to be whales, schools of porpoises, or drifting mats of kelp. Yet each rationalization carried a scent of unease. What if one sighting in 20 wasn't a mistake? For mariners whose lives depended on pattern recognition, to misread the sea was to invite death. And the persistence of the serpent myth shows that even professionals sometimes preferred to fear an error.
So just to tell you how prevalent this stuff is for the time frames that we're talking about, I always remember seeing one of these in a history museum when I was a kid, and it was a rough drawing of one of the early maps when they started trying to map out everything on the globe. And I always basically kind of wondered at the fact that on the outlines of the map, when they didn't know what else was there, it was always worded, "Here there be monsters."
Yeah, I say that on Twitter too. You're way off the map. There be monsters here. Whenever anybody struggles their way into a climatology conversation with me, or God, I'm so sick of the Southern strategy, but it is.
Dude, I don't know which part of your Twitter feed is my favorite, the climatology one or the party swap one. I love watching you smack people around on
those. My favorite is actually train tards.
I don't get in on those as much. I don't know. I don't see those.
It comes around every now and then. You'll get some urban planner who will, anyway. Yeah. Back to the show.
Yeah. So anyway, science eventually actually did catch up to some of the monsters. The first live giant squid was photographed in 2004, confirming what sailors had whispered for centuries. At lengths exceeding 40 feet with eyes the size of dinner plates, Archithidius ducks proved that the abyss could still surprise us. The discovery rehabilitated earlier sea monster testimonies once dismissed as fantasy. If a creature that enormous could elude capture until the 21st century, what else might still be hiding in the trenches? And that is a great point, because I had forgotten that they actually had proven that there is such a thing as a giant squid monster now. I'm like, that was 2004? Really? So 20 years ago? But yeah, so...
What was it in the 90s that they found they caught a live coelacanth in a net, and they thought that they had been extinct for like ever?
Yeah.
There was a fossil record of them, but they actually caught a live one. So yeah, guys, we're 2/3 water. Yeah, there's shit out there in the deep.
Which always
be whales here.
Yeah, which always kind of astounds me, because they always talk about space as if it's the final frontier. With as much as we don't really know what's going on in the really deep parts of our oceans, I'm kind of surprised kind of makes me. Is this for the same reason that we don't go back to the moon?
You know who I'm at? You know what we don't have anymore?
What?
Jacques Cousteau. We need a new Jacques Cousteau.
Yes, we do.
You know, and that
and in the words in the world of instant fame and being able to take a GoPro and make yourself famous, I'm kind of surprised nobody's done it yet.
Yeah, I mean, one of my favorite models I built when I was a kid was the Calypso 2.
So I don't remember if I've told this story on this show or not. I think I've told it to you before on a different show. But my 8th grade science teacher actually won the Krista McAuliffe Award. One of the things we got was a satellite dish for our school and then a mobile one. We also got a chance to submit to name the new shuttle. I submitted Calypso. I lost. I was sad.
That would have been cool. That would have been fantastic. You know what's funny? What comes up in a lot of these, like attempts to debunk the sea serpents is the oarfish. Yeah, and that's one that it's a creepy damn fish. It's over 30 feet and shimmering silver blue. It undulates vertically when surfacing, exactly the motion that was described in the earlier reports. The sea serpents. And when one washes ashore, coastal residents often interpret it as an omen. In Japan, the oarfish is nicknamed the messenger of the sea god's palace and is associated with impending earthquakes. And after the 2011 Tahoe disaster, several oarfish strandings were retrospectively cast as warnings. The modern name for it is earthquake fish, might as well translate to apocalyptic serpent. Yeah, MD,
So
the oarfish is plausible for many. It is one of the things I know when I was going to Catalina is sunfish, too. They act a little weird when they get to the surface to bask. So,
yeah, that could be interesting. So, next up on our water cryptid hit parade is the globsters. I don't know. The gelatinous carcasses that drift onto beaches, unrecognizable masses of flesh that seem too alien for classification. The term was coined in 1962 after a strange body washed up in Tasmania. It lacked bones, smelled of ammonia, and measured over 20 feet across. Early reports claimed it was an octopus of monstrous proportions. Later analysis identified collagen fibers, typical of decomposed whale blubber. Yet, the pattern repeated in Chile in 1958, Bermuda in 1988, and Newfoundland in 2001. Immense, shapeless corpses interpreted as sea monsters until proven mundane. The ocean doesn't have to hide its monsters alive. It can sculpt them from its dead. So this may be another weird thing that may or may not be being mistaken for sea monsters at some point. But
yeah, MD brings up a good point in the chat too. Columbus's smallest boat was 45 feet. You got a 30-foot oarfish. That's going to give you some pause, my friend.
Yeah,
if it's 2/3 the length of your ship that you are crossing the Atlantic with.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, every few years, sonar gives us a new myth. We covered this one a few weeks. Several weeks ago. With the 1997 NOAA recorded ultra low frequency sound in the South Pacific, nicknamed the Bloop. It was interestingly nearly the exact location where Cthulhu sleeps dreaming.
Interesting.
Off, way off the coast of Chile, way out in the middle of the South Pacific. It's the official explanation. I air quote is ice quakes caused by calving glaciers. But it never quite erased a biological hypothesis. It's still, I mean, we listened to the audio. I didn't think to bring up the audio track again for it. That doesn't sound like an ice quake or a calving, glacier into an iceberg. That sounds biologic, to quote Jonesy. on the famed USS Dallas. But yeah, it's just something moving beneath the Antarctic shelf or in the far South Pacific. The recording is eerie, deep, resonant, almost vocal, and it's just creepy.
Creepy sauce. But so the funny thing is, and one of the things I think actually causes these things to just hang around for forever, is the ocean as a medium itself, because it's both archive and amplifier. Sounds linger and refract. Visual data dissolves. It's the perfect canvas for projection. The sound of the end protocol fits here. Each mystery of the deep becomes an audition for apocalypse, a rehearsal for the day the sea itself speaks. When the Bloop's recordings were sped up, it resembled a human groan, an accidental crossover between nature and nightmares.
Yeah, you know what? I don't care what they say. I firmly believe in the Bloop. I really do. That's one of those. It's just because the official explanation is crap. It really is. It's when we did that show. Everything it's like with this. Everything is thermoclines and lake gas and then everything was ice quakes and birthing icebergs and just they can't all be that's just such a catch-all.
Well, I mean that's how those explanations work, though. I mean, look at the UFO stuff, swamp gas, weather balloons. It's catch-alls.
Venus, yeah.
Hey, don't be dissing on DJs.
The category of submarine anomalies is massive sonar contacts logged by the U.S. and Soviet navies during the Cold War. Files declassified in the 90s reference fast-moving submerged objects, or what we used to call USOs, exceeding known propulsion speeds. The Soviet K-219 incident in 1968 and the U.S. Santa Catalina Channel case of 67 both reported underwater echoes moving over 200 knots. And then there was that other fleet maneuver off Catalina that we covered when we did the Tic Tac video.
Yep.
It's impossible for any known submersible to travel at that speed. They've actually been given the term quackers. That from the Soviet Navy. It was their slang for the signal, and it's thought to be unknown marine animals or foreign tech or both. The overlap between cryptozoology and military secrecy mirrors the same paranoia, that linked Tessie and Nahuelito. Sometimes the monster and the machine are the same story. But 200 knots, God, that's fast.
That's fast. I mean, especially when you think about the fact that the nautical mile and the land mile aren't exactly the same. That's really that's actually fast. That's really fast.
Yeah.
So because it's a slightly different scale of distance. The nautical mile is even longer. So you're talking about covering even more distance, even quicker. So yeah. Anyway, that's fast enough that if they were on the surface and something happened, they would be hitting a brick wall.
Yeah.
That's terrifying, especially underwater. I mean, surface speeds, I mean, we can do that now with really fast boats. They get pretty close. But I can't imagine the displacement it would take to be able to do that underwater.
Right. Yeah, I mean that's full resistance. That's not, that's not hydroplaning. That's not skipping across the surface. That's full, viscous resistance. The one thing that's always interesting about these stories, though, is that the sailors who see these things rarely renounce them. It's like in 1973, a Norwegian tanker captain, Aslas Olsen, described a ribbed serpent-like creature longer than our ship's beam, moving north through calm seas. He swore under oath that it wasn't a wave, and when asked what he thought, he said simply, something that should have died long before us.
Well, that doesn't sound scary at all.
Yeah, well, but I mean that's kind of every sea monster fits that bill.
Yeah, kind of a mix
And the lake monsters too, and the river. These are all things that should have died out millions of years ago.
But I mean,
When you think of the progression of glaciation over the eons, and just, but they're still there.
Well, not to bring my one of my field of studies back into play, but in some cases, some of these things feel downright theological. I'm just saying. But if lakes represent personal mystery, the ocean embodies collective dread. Depth here equals infinity, and infinity demands personification. Sea serpents become avatars of the unknowable, dynamic metaphors for climate, chaos, or creation itself. In Greek myth, the monster Cetus was slain by Perseus. In the Bible, Leviathan embodies divine wrath. In each, the serpent isn't merely an animal, it's the border between order and the abyss. Modern skepticism frames these accounts as ecological misreadings. The dataless serpent could have been a whale or a whale shark. The heralds may have been floating kelp. The bloop, ice fracturing. Each rationalization closes one door, or does it, but leaves another ajar. The possibility that the ocean in its sheer immensity doesn't require belief to hide something. Even the skeptics concede the math, less than 20% of the seafloor mapped in detail, entire trenches unexplored, the phase known species becomes provisional. And that's kind of what I was talking about earlier. I find it funny that we've turned everything outward towards space when 80% of our ocean is still relatively unmapped in the 21st century.
Yeah, I mean, we've got vague ideas of what's there, but yeah, it's no hyper accurate sonar. Anyway, I was going to do another Red October reference, but I'm just going to have more tea. The one thing is, maritime culture absorbs this uncertainty. Sailors will tattoo serpents on their forearms. And then that's just as a talisman and a warning. Fishing towns will name bars after monsters that never were. The ocean tolerates these gestures like an ancient god amused by the flattery. But it's again, it goes back to what I talked to at the beginning. Healthy respect. Have a healthy respect, especially when it's historical.
So yeah, I did find it funny that in Gloucester, Massachusetts, the local museum still displays some of the serpent sketches we were talking about beside whaling tools, as if both were.
And why wouldn't they? I mean, that's part of museum kitsch. I mean, it's part of the history. So, yeah. So all the technology changes the means, but not the meaning. The autonomous submersibles scanning trenches with high definition cameras. They'll produce the occasional anomaly. The shadow's too large, the movement's too deliberate. And they're cataloged and archived and then forgotten. But the effect is the same. The deep stays inscrutable.
Yeah, in some cases, it almost kind of feels like bureaucracy has replaced superstition. Some theorists propose that the serpent archetype persists because it encodes a warning about the sea's autonomy. We treat the ocean as resource, but the myths remind us it is also sovereign. Every few years, a dead whale mistaken for a monster or a sonar unknown contact becomes a temporary revelation of that sovereignty. The sea doesn't owe us visibility. In fact, the sea owes us nothing.
No, it really doesn't. Yeah, Jeff, to your point, yeah, sea monsters in Finnish, things that are not real. Gloucester's all about them.
Nice. Oh.
Yeah, if the lakes are the mirrors of our personal depth, I guess the ocean is our collective unconsciousness. It alive and occasionally articulate, but the monsters reported these are less creatures and more, I don't know. It's more visceral. You know, it's not just like, you know, something that's going to take your leg. It's something that's going to take your boat.
Yeah. I think we're going to need a bigger boat.
Yeah. And just keep coming back to that. What MD said, you know, Columbus's smallest boat was 45 feet.
Dude, can you just
That's
putting
just
that
a cork floating on the ocean.
Well, so just to put this in perspective before we take the break, you also need to keep in mind that people were shorter back then. The average height for a male of that time frame was anywhere between 5'5" and 5'7". Tallish was 5'8" and 5'9". So when you take away those extra inches, plus you're starting to talk about something that is 3/4 as long as the boat that you're sailing on, it's no wonder they might have mistaken some of these things as sea monsters. It technically would qualify as one. It's 30 feet long.
By every definition, it's a monster.
I'm just saying. So even if that is one of the things that over the years has been being mistaken as a serpent, it doesn't mean it's just because it doesn't want to eat you. It doesn't technically mean that it's not a sea monster. The thing is huge. It's 30 feet long.
It's just an oarfish. Well, that thing can swallow me fucking whole. So yeah, it's an oarfish.
I mean, yeah, it's definitely an oarfish, but that doesn't mean it couldn't swallow me whole if it wanted to.
All right.
All right. I got to get some more sips of water, and we've pretty much hit the bottom of the hour point anyway.
Okay.
I'm sure you probably need some more tea by now. I'm sure.
Yeah, I do need some more tea, actually. More tea, anybody?
Amish is making tea if anyone would like some. We'll be right back. You're listening to Juxtaposition right here live on KLRradio.com. Don't forget, it is Juxtober. We'll be here all October long. Back in about 4, I think. I can't see the clock on the song. I think it's about 3.5. We'll be right back.
Silence, but I'll drag them down. But your bones are the proof I'll break.
Just so
That's that, dude. I'm glad I have that downloaded. That actually may make it on my like just doing stuff around the house kind of playlist kind of thing. That is really good. I can't.
Yeah, that one. I've been whenever I need to test audio on my computer, I've been using the Alice in Wonderland, so I'm going to be toggling with this one too. I'm a fan.
I was so excited by how the graphic looked. I didn't realize that GPT gave me an arm and a stand, so I'll probably have to try to tweak that later. But it's still, compared to how some of this stuff turns out, looks pretty damn
I was
good.
kind of laughing because I've got that's basically, no, I got a new arm. That's my old arm. But yeah, I was laughing. It's so great. You got the stand, or I got the stand, and you got the arm.
But I am kind of surprised because it doesn't know what kind of microphone I have, but it basically gave us my microphone. So
yeah,
that kind of creeps me out.
Mine's more the
those
style, which is actually harder to shop for now. I mean, I've got a really good Audio Technica mic, but like finding mounts for it, to attach to my arm. They all want to do either the side posts like are in the image or like Yeti. I'm like, no, come on. I'm a traditionalist.
Yeah, I was surprised because it actually is a really good rendering for an SHR mic, and that's or a Shure mic, and that's actually what I have. I was like, I don't think it knows that. I was surprised.
Are you gonna die on me?
Excuse me while I try not to die on the air. Yeah. Delaney, since you've been hanging out with us more on Juxtaposition, the songs that we play in the mid breaks, those are usually all Jeff's now. He creates all of them. So
yes.
Apparently he just realized that because he just asked in the chat, what song was that? And Jeff's like, mine. Oh, anyway. But yeah, I mean, dude, this has been kind of a fun, if not a kind of sometimes making the hair on the back of my neck stand up kind of topic, but it's been fun.
You know, the one thing, going into this, I was thinking about it when putting together the notes on this, is that, we always talk about Nessie. We always talk about sea monsters. We never talk about the swamps.
I mean, that's because who wants to think about the swamps?
Yeah, but they have just as many, just as many sea cryptids. But their swamps are even worse because they reside in that area on the edge of civilization. Where it's like, they've always been there, and we're just encroaching into their territory. In these murkier biomes, monsters don't represent the unknown so much as the uncivilized. Wild that they just refuse to stay mapped, and each region's waterline has its own guardian or predator. A thing half folklore and half just a protest against domestication. The shoreline is always cultural on the edge where the frontier stopped expanding and the imagination took over on patrol.
So the Flathead Lake monster of Montana marks the western frontier's baptism into cryptozoology. Flathead is enormous, nearly 200 square miles, and exceptionally clear, a trait that paradoxically breeds distortion. The local Salish tribe tells of a time when the lake was a dry valley until the Great Spirit sent rain that flooded it and drowned careless villagers who ignored warnings. Only 2 children survived, transformed into water beings. When settlers arrived, they got the story secondhand and turned the survivors into predators. The first modern sightings came in 1889 when steamboat captain James C. Kerr, kind of wondering if that's where Roddenberry might not have gotten the alliteration for Kirk's name from, reported a creature at least 30 to 40 feet long swimming near Wild Horse Island. Subsequent witnesses described humps, whiskers, and even fins. By the 50s, amid Montana's boating boom, Flathead's monster had gone from tribal parable to regional attraction. The most famous case occurred in 1955 when an entire family on a fishing trip claimed their motor sputtered as a massive form passed beneath them. They fled to shore, convinced they'd seen something older than the lake itself. Okay, that would freak me out.
Yeah, I mean, skeptics, blame a giant sturgeon, which is logical. They're there. And, sturgeons exceed 6-7 feet and have been pulled from Flathead's depths. But the pattern remains consistent. The clearer the water, the more convincing the apparition. Paul Fugelberg, a local historian, once quipped, "Flathead's water is so pure you can see your delusions coming a mile away." That's
That's good. That's good.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this really should be in the lake monster segment, but it's still, it's even in the shallows. The monster you can almost photograph, but never quite. It's like that.
So-
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, no, I mean, yeah, it's just I had a point, and then anyway, lost it. Sorry, it's gone.
Yeah, it's the same thing. I was gonna make a point, and then I got distracted, and then I lost it too. So,
yeah, for down.
My-
What's that? Go ahead.
No, go ahead. We keep stepping on each other.
Okay,
Just
yeah.
go.
Yeah, down in Arkansas, you've got the White River monster. That's it's in the civic record. The earliest tales go back to the Civil War, when soldiers supposedly saw a giant creature surface near Newport, describing it as gray and wrinkled like an elephant. Nothing. Never again reported until July 1973, when fishermen reported an enormous animal the size of a boxcar. Arkansas Fish and Game officers took sonar readings and detected a large moving object of considerable mass. The story gained momentum when local housewife Betty Saunders produced photographs showing a hump in the water, and the images were indistinct but persuasive enough that the state legislature took the unprecedented step of designating part of the White River as the White River Monster Refuge. It remains illegal to harm or capture the creature. It's recognition of the myth and, the ecological heritage. Yeah. Fish and Game, U.S. Fish and Game biologists later suggested the creature might have been a manatee displaced northward by flood currents, but over 200 years, Newport's residents didn't want a tourist-friendly manatee. They wanted the monster. Local boosters adopted Whitey as the mascot, hosting festivals and selling plushies. And that, as an anxious reaction to the brand of, maybe it was a manatee. Whitey thrives on being officially unconfirmed. So that's the one thing I love is every region leans into their lake monster and their river monster, and it's tourism, it's kitsch, and it's it's good for the economy, but they get into it. The locals get into it, and you got to appreciate
This is true. So
that is
we're
their
gonna
local identity.
It's all about the monster game, man. It's all about the monster game. Yeah, it's funny because a lot of these monsters that have become tourist traps, they really do thrive on basically being unconfirmed, because it's almost better for them that the myth and legends still abound in a lot of ways, because it's easier to sell, I think.
Well,
But
and sometimes you have to wonder. It's like, okay, so when they go and do all the sonar readings and hydrophone readings and everything, it's like, do they take into account, if we firmly say that there is nothing here, are we going to kill this town's tourism? Are we going to bankrupt this town by saying it? I mean, there's always that chance, but I keep coming back to, well, they're scientists. They would actually want, you can't, but getting back to it, you can't prove a negative. So you can't prove nothing's there. And I mean, on the other hand, it's just as easy to buy a scientist as it is a politician, sometimes easier. And then you got a Lifetime movie where, the The plucky little college grad out to prove that, the local myth is absolutely false, falls in love with the local fishermen, and then they have a bake sale and everybody is happy.
Yep.
I've watched a lot of Hallmark movies.
Yeah, that's funny because I really have not. I didn't really see you as the Hallmark movie kind of guy. But
you know what? I just dig that all the sci-fi hotties age out and go to Hallmark, and then they become milfy.
Yeah, I can see that, I guess. So, we're gonna move to another part of America. We're heading to Louisiana. The Honey Island swamp monster, lurking in the cypress mazes of the aforementioned Louisiana. The legend began in 1963 when air traffic controller Harlan Ford, an avid wildlife photographer, claimed to have filmed a tall, hairy creature walking through the swamp. His death decades later revealed a roll of 8mm footage showing exactly that, a shaggy biped trudging through reeds. The clip is murky enough to fuel decades of argument. Locals describe the creature as part man, part alligator, with clawed feet and glowing amber eyes. Skeptics have chalked it up to escaped circus animals or misidentified nutria, but the story's deeper function is sociological. The Honey Island swamp lies between New Orleans, modernity. I don't know. Modernity. I don't. That's an extra syllable throwing me off. But anyway, and Cajun isolation. Its monster stands as a kind of liminal gatekeeper, policing the border between civilization and the primordial. As folklorist Andrew Kolb observed, the swamp monster is not about fear or fear of what's out there, but fear of what we left behind.
Yeah, on the Atlantic seaboard, you've got the Altamaha-ha. That's fun to say. That one haunts the tidal marshes of coastal Georgia near to the town of Darien. The Muskogee people told Altamaha-ha river spirit resembling a giant snake with a cat-like head. That's new. The first documented Sentinel report appeared in 1830, describing a creature resembling a sea lion surfacing near St. Simons Island. Modern sightings cluster around the 80s, often tied to local paper mill workers who claim to see the creature while patrolling the waterways. 1981, newspaper publisher Jim Dawson reported a 20-foot animal with 2 protruding humps. State biologists investigated and found nothing, of course. Nonetheless, Darien lead in, commissioning a cartoon mascot and holding Alti festivals. The beast became a totem for ecological anxiety, appearing whenever pollution scandals or fish die-offs dominated the local headlines. As if the marsh developed a spokesman.
And heading back across the Atlantic for a moment, Selma, the Norwegian lake serpent of
net.
I'm going to let you say that. Drifts into the American psyche through the global information tide. Sightings in 1750, 1880, and as recently as 1998 describe a long, dark body and looping movements. An Arctic cousin to Nessie, Norwegians treat Selma less as monster than neighbor. Locals even built a monument to her honor. By the 1990s, transatlantic coverage began linking Selma to the Scandinavian diaspora in the Midwest, suggesting immigrants carried their water myths to the New World. In that sense, Flathead Serpent is Selma's grandchild by folklore migration, which is an interesting thought.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, it's one thing with these swamp and marsh monsters. They occupy a unique ecological niche in the American imagination. They thrive where industry meets the wilderness. The White River monster surfaced when dredging and levees disrupted Arkansas wetlands. Honey Island beast appeared when new air routes cut through the bayou. Altamaha-ha its revival coincided with river pollution debates. Each creature seems to be a local conscience, rendered as a cryptid.
I don't know if I like this description because it kind of sounds like cryptids are being hijacked by hippies.
Well, yeah.
Just saying. I don't know how I feel about
Yeah, that's an
that.
interesting point, Jeff. They're like locusts. What if aquatic cryptids lay dormant for years only to resurface periodically?
That's an interesting thought.
Yeah.
So biologists have often.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
No,
Go
I was
ahead.
just thinking. I was just expanding on that. That's an interesting thought. Kind of like it shows up every 20 years.
Yeah.
But it always seems like we go through that pollution cycle with our waterways too. It's we get outraged because the mercury gets too high in the water, so we then we get all these sightings around of then the local industry cleans up, and then 20 years later everybody's forgotten it and the whole cycle starts again.
That might be a fun tease episode to come back to one time because we could do cryptids, the cicadas of legend.
There we go. I mean, they do. All the sightings come in flurries. I've been along enough to see 3 Bigfoot faps.
Yeah, good point. Oh, but biologists have actually attempted rational explanations for almost all of these things, including such things as garfish, manatees, stray seals, misperceived logs. The patterns fit, but the timing often betrays coincidence. Too neat to ignore. Monsters appear exactly when communities fear they're losing control of their environment. It's the ecosystem speaking in folklore's accent. And in some cases, tourism naturally follows terror. The White River Refuge remains the only U.S. legal protection for an unverified creature. Flathead Lake sells plush serpents beside Huckleberry Jam. Honey Island offers swamp tours promising encounters with the unknown. Darien's Visitor Center uses a cartoon serpent to sell taffy. The commerce of mystery keeps the myth buoyant.
Yeah, there's also the military and industrial shadow in this too, is that, in several Honey Island and Altamaha-ha reports, witnesses mentioned glowing lights under the water, possibly chemical, swamp gas, bioluminescence, whatever, possibly something stranger. In 75, 2 fishermen near Darien described an illuminated form that rose and then snapped off its light as if it knew it was seen. It's haunting because it implies awareness on these, and the line between pollution and presence collapses. Maybe the river really does have eyes.
Well, we know the hills that the hills,
and they still have eyes.
Yeah. From a symbolic perspective, swamp monsters invert our usual cosmology. They are not fallen angels of the deep, but Earth's reclaimers, creatures of mud, hybrid, amphibious, unashamedly transitional. Their very physiology mocks our taxonomy. And they are they reptile, mammal, spirit? Yes. And they appear precisely where, and they appear precisely where categorization fails.
Yeah, culturally, these unify the mythic serpent with the American frontier ethos. The settler narrative always required wilderness to conquer. When none remained, the folklore built it underwater. The swamp became the last frontier, and its monsters the final resistance. The beast in the bayou is simply, the land saying that no language scales an eye shine.
So in this context, sorry, tried to yawn there for a second. Still talking.
God
at the same
damn
time.
it!
I thought I masked it pretty well. It's just why the word was kind of muffled. The monster's ambiguity is essential. A confirmed species within the story. The function of Flathead, Whitey, Altie, and the Honey Island beast is to remain almost credible, forever at the edge of revelation. They embody the thrill of the possible, a civic heartbeat of what if. which is an interesting take, but I still kind of feel like the hippies have hijacked some of my favorite legends, and I don't know how I feel about that.
Yeah, each of these American outliers reasserts itself as some truth of the regional dialect that nature will never be fully tamed. Whether glimpsed in the shimmer of Flathead surface or the, phosphorant currents of Honey Island, the monsters remind us that the wilderness isn't gone. I live in the big wilderness, and it's we talked about this last week. There's just places I've been to dozens of times, but one time it just said in the back of my head, you don't belong here right now. Get out.
Right.
Go.
Yeah, so that's actually happened to me before.
Yeah,
But
I mean, when you think of California, you think big built-up cities and everything. But I'm up in the mountains, yo. I'm in Ansel Adams territory, and it gets creepy out there, man.
Damn it, Jeff.
What's that?
Insert Futurama gif. This one tastes funny.
Yeah. Jeff just gave me a whole bunch of information on Discord that we could use for water serpents or water cryptids as cicada with their dormancy patterns and everything.
Very
Yeah, but I mean, so anyway, the wilderness isn't gone. It's just submerged, and occasionally it surfaces to remind us who's really in charge. Once again, reminding us that we weren't always the apex predator.
And I mean, really, in most cases, we're still not. We like to pretend we are, but we're not.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're the apex predator until we put a toe in the water. And I think that's what's really creepy about this, too. The creepiest thing about it is that, we will never be the apex predator in the water. We are out of our element. We don't belong there. We need special accoutrements to go there.
Kind of like before we could learn to fly. Kind of like before we learned to fly, and everybody was like, "If God wanted us to fly, men would have wings." Yeah.
I like Billy Connolly's version. If God intended me to fly, he would have bought the ticket.
Nice. Oh, but so I don't know. My takeaway from all of this tonight is kind of deep. I know, bad pun because we're talking about water. But water remembers every civilization that has ever gazed into it. We populate it with monsters because we can't stand its silence. The lakes give us shadows that move when nothing should. The rivers whisper of survivors that refused extinction. From Loch Ness to the bayous, each ripple tells the same story. We fear stillness more than teeth.
Yeah, I mean, the question with this remains is that, I mean, if these creatures exist, it's not whether these creatures exist. It's if we would notice if they stopped appearing. The myth has become as much of the territory as the rest of the ecosystem. A necessary predator in the food chain of belief. It's just Nessie could stop appearing tomorrow. Champ could stop appearing. Tessie, but they'll never be forgotten. They'll always be part of the legend, and whether it's 20 years from now or 100 years from now, someone will bring it up again, and when it's needed most.
Oh man, this has been a fun topic so far.
Yeah,
I can't believe we're already 2 weeks. Nope.
I knocked wood.
Might want to do it again.
Yeah, no, I specifically didn't take a nap. I had to get up really stupid early to go down for election training, and yes, California's having.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, you can thank your governor for that.
Yeah, well, we've only. I was talking about it with the head of elections, and since Newsom has become governor, I mean, yeah, okay, so we have the TikTok of the primaries and the general election, but since Newsom has become governor, we've only had 1 year off of elections. Whether it's his recall or this one with Prop 50.
So, since you are kind of in the know of this stuff, I saw a story today that kind of concerns me, but I figured I'd talk to you about it. Apparently, somebody is posting online that if you do your mail-in balloting and you vote yes or you vote a certain way, they can actually see it through the envelope, and they're afraid that'll lead people to throw it away?
Depends on the county. See, that's we were actually kind of joking about that today because every county gets to pick their envelope, and in our county you cannot see into it, but it's so much of the stuff. I mean, not just in California, but on every level, is that it's handled by the county. If you don't like, especially if you're in a smaller area, I mean, if you're in a city, your voice isn't going to carry a lot of weight. But like, if you're, if you're rural and you see shit like that, absolutely complain. And generally elections is run by the county recorder, which is an electable position, so they are beholden to their constituents. So, that's the kind of thing I would absolutely bitch about. And but in our case, our envelopes are solid. You can't see through them. And talking with this too, it's funny is that because I am the ADA technician, California for its voting machines, yes, they're Dominion, but they're not the ones that had all the problems across the country, because California, for as fucked up as everything is, has the most secure laws for what can be used for voting machines. And we are a paper ballot state. So even if you're on the voting machine, all that machine does is spit out a paper ballot.
Well, that's interesting.
Yeah.
All right. So what are we gonna be talking about next week?
Next week is we've done land, we've done sea. We're going with the air. We're going with flying cryptids.
Wait, there's flying cryptids?
Oh yeah. You got the
I know.
Yeah. You got the Thunderbird, you got Quetzalcoatl, you got all kinds of flying cryptids.
I don't guess I ever realized. I mean, I recognize the name Quetzalcoatl, but I don't guess I'd ever put that together.
Yeah. Well, it's a Mayan god, but still. But
well, I mean, maybe the Mayans.
You're in the area of the Thunderbird.
Yeah, I recognized that one once you said it. I just didn't think about it until now.
Yeah, no, there are quite a few airborne cryptids. So there we go.
So the question is, was Quetzalcoatl a god, or were they just worshiping a cryptid?
Yes. Embrace the power of and. Which is also one of the it's one of the cheesiest horror movies from the 80s, the movie Q.
Nice.
Yeah, it's that's actually where I learned to pronounce Quetzalcoatl.
So by the way, for those of you that might be interested, feel free to visit the KLRN Radio store, because there is Embrace the Power of and merch on sale there, just so you know.
Yeah, I gotta get one of those. All my coffee cups are getting chipped. I'm gonna replenish them. I might as well just replenish them with the KLRN from the KLRN store.
Might as well.
Yeah.
All right. Well, my friend, I think we have done the topic justice. We made it all the way through, and we have about 800 people hanging out with us right now.
Excellent. You all like the creepy, and we love you for that.
All right. So where can folks find you, my friend?
This week, I was going to tell you I won't be able to be on Manorama. I've got to go out of town for a thing. But this week you will find me Wednesday on Rick and Orty with you, Thursday with Brad Slager on the Culture Shift as we take a deep dive into the Hollywood entertainment business side, bringing you all the information you need to know about that. And then we're back here again next week talking about flying cryptids.
I have to say I'm disappointed with how much you've been letting down the manosphere the last couple of weeks, sir.
It's not my fault. I lost my voice once, and then I've got to go out of town. I just, my chances of making it back in town in time are about 50%. So I would rather err on the side of caution and surprise you all. Then, yeah. How often do I miss podcasts?
I'm actually just teasing anyway. I just hate the word manosphere, but I still wanted to use it anyway.
The manosphere.
That annoys me. Anyway, you know what? Executive decision. We're going out the same way we've been going to break, because I want to hear this song one more time. As far as
how about you? Working for find you.
Don't look for me. It's a trap. You can find me tomorrow night at I guess it'll be 9 p.m. Eastern again, because Al is still currently on break. with new show around here called
Oh
Kingdom
shit!
of
I'm on the
Country.
Vincent Charles project tomorrow too. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, but
Yes, I'm there.
Yeah.
I suck.
And well, we're never. No,
Oh, also, real quick, we are putting together The Day the Earth Stood Still for our KLRN Halloween production.
it should be amazing. Everybody should be there. It should be fun.
Yeah, we got to
But
finalize
yeah,
up the cast list, and then we'll get it out. I'm looking forward to it.
So yeah, Kingdom and Country tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Eastern. America Off the Rails, 10 p.m. Eastern on Monday night. Tuesday, the Daily Show starts up again, so that starts 10 a.m. Tuesday through Friday. Tuesday night, hanging around with the Manorama crew. Wednesday night, full boat. For everything else, check the schedule because I do way too many damn shows anyway. You can also find me as a contributor on twitchy.com, misfitspolitics.com, and theloftusparty.com. And I also produce the Loftus Party podcast, which drops on Tuesdays. And you can follow along with everything I do at RowdyRick73 on X, and everything we do here, KLRN Radio related at KLRN Radio. You might notice that we have a square badge and a gold check for now. That is through the generosity of a listener, and hopefully we can keep that around because I kind of dig it. But we'll see because I can't afford it on my own. So, oh, all right. I think that's it. We're going out the same way we went to break. If you haven't heard this yet, this is the newest offering from Jeff, who will have an album dropping soon. It's currently under review. So as soon as it goes public, everybody's going to know because I want to make Jeff be able to retire from his music sales. Just saying. Bye, everybody.
Hail Hydra.
Silence, but I'll drag them down. Now I'm rising from the deep with hunger in my eyes. You call me legend, you call me fake, but your bones are the proof I'll break. I am the myth you can't erase. Champ is the shadow on your face. Cast dreams and sonar songs. Your science won't save you when the current's strong. They feed the myth, but they starve the truth. So I'll write it in blood in the lake of youth. Oh, you wanted a story, but you'll drown in the I'm the serpent of your nightmare, the end of your dream. You call me legend, you call me fake, but your bones are the proof I'll break. I am the myth you can't erase. Champ is the shadow on your face. Do you hear me in the waves? Do you feel me when it's late?